tonight. Glad to have each of you here. If you could, remember to silence your phones. We'll get started with our moment of silence and pledge. Dr. Holman, do you have anybody?
Here's going to
All right. We'll have a moment of silence, and you can start us off with the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Miss Patty, everyone's here except Miss Clejo. Did we have anyone request to speak tonight? Okay. So that brings us to item D, the recognition of Carrie Lesko and Michelle Keel on the Grow Your Own program.
Yes, so we, in the district, we have two young ladies who have completed the Grow Your Own program, and as a result, then by completing that, are then able for employment. And so tonight we wanted to recognize and congratulate Ms. Carrie.
Does someone have a camera you can take a picture? Let's not miss the moment.
Let me make sure. iPhone 12 is. All right.
Thank you so much.
Congratulations.
Now, second is Miss Michelle Keel, but she is not here on this evening.
So wait, and Carrie, are you going to be teaching next year then?
Yes, ma'am.
And where?
North Middle School.
Congratulations.
All right, that brings us to item F, approval of the agenda. You want to take a look, see if you have any questions or comments? We'll entertain a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Have a motion by Ms. Leakey.
Second.
Second by Ms. Marhesky. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. It moves us to item G, approval of the consent agenda. Just a couple of things on this. The May meetings, and we have a couple of field trips. Huntland and the FC's FFA Leadership Camp, and then the North Middle School Cheer Camp.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Roberts, second by Ms. Schultz. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Brings us to the director's report.
All right, so tonight, as we've done for each meeting, we have a department that will present. So tonight, Ms. McDonald is going to present to us about attendance and the SIS, everything money. So it's time, Mr. Linda.
Okay, I'm going to start with our student information system. This is probably the favorite part of my job. It affords me the opportunity to interact and work with just about every aspect of the school system, every department, parents, students, so I really enjoy this part. But this is where it all begins. This is the beginning of our data locally. The vendor we use is Skyward. So everything that occurs in our school system, student withdrawals, enrollments, attendance, discipline, grades, schedules, that's what feeds to the state to drive our funding. So it's very important that that local piece is correct. I'm also proud that our local Skyward people are also trained on the state side. They have access to EIS, and so they're trained to verify their own data. And that's been a good thing. Not all districts do that, but it works real well for us. They take a lot of ownership in their data. They get very competitive with their data. They don't want we have 9 20-day funding periods, and they are so competitive at the end of those funding periods to make sure nobody's data's off. So that's worked well. So I also have to provide support, training, and troubleshooting to these programs for our district. Next, I'll start with some at-risk populations that I'm responsible for. I've given you the definition for migrant and immigrant because I'm always asked what's the difference between a migrant student and an immigrant student. So there are special things to reporting these populations as far as funding, legalities on how we can enroll these students. The next two populations are homeless. Homeless is a big thing. The first part of that piece is making sure everybody in our district is trained annually, that we identify these students correctly, that we report them correctly. It's a hard population to identify. Parents don't want to be identified as homeless. So our first step in that is a residential survey that is given with new student paperwork, and indicators on that paperwork trigger us to start looking at that child's living situation. The definition of a homeless child is lacking a fixed nighttime residence due to economic hardship. So that's going to be your students. They're in hotel, motels, doubled up situations, living in campgrounds, and we do have all that occur in our county. Foster students, we have a pretty good large population of foster students, and they're very transit, of course. So as that transition occurs, bid meetings have to happen, best interest determination for that student placement between the leaving district, receiving district, and DHS. The next thing, Lori, is homeschool coordinator. This is a big part of my job. I do spend a lot of time on homeschool. There are two ways that students can be homeschooled. One is they're truly independent homeschooled, registered with us as a homeschooled student. That population we have now is about 72 students. Those students have to be registered every year. It has to be a custodial parent, and they only have to provide us a GED to homeschool grades K through 12. The other population that is considered homeschool, they're really enrolled in non-public schools or different categories of non-public schools. This is going to be your online schools, your church-related schools, WCA, St. Andrews, and we have a huge population of that. There's a lot of reporting that goes into that. Twice a year we do a huge report. We have to reconcile those homeschool students annually. So that will start soon for this upcoming school year, and if they don't come in and register, we have to go and look for them, and that happens a lot. And we make a lot of home visits in regard to homeschools. The next slide will show you our ending report this year. This is a large report, largest ever. It's about 1,141 students. I think last year it was 840 something. We had a lot more schools report to us. Legally, they're supposed to report their school rows to the county that those students reside in. They don't always do that. For some reason this year they were much better at it. They also have to report students that aren't in compliance. And then that falls back on the LEA to file a truancy petition. So that happens a lot, or we have to go and look for those students. Dr. Holman's always chuckled at the fact we have to hunt their students. But so next is attendance and truancy. That's a big part of my job too, monitoring chronic absenteeism and truancy. Truancy is defined as a student that has missed 5 or more unexcused days in a school year. Chronic absenteeism is a student that has missed 10% of their instruction, regardless of the reason, except for a field trip or homebound. So a student could be, for instance, in school 30 days and miss 3 days with the doctor's note excused, and they're considered chronically absent. So we do monitor that closely, and of course as the school year progresses, that percentage increases. And what we look a lot for is excessive doctor's notes. And when we start seeing that, we start recommending homebound services. So at least they're getting some type of instruction. I also make home visits in regard to this. I ensure TCA is being followed in regard to enrollment, school age, attendance, truancy. File truancy petitions as necessary and make home visits as necessary. Residential placements. On a sad note, sometimes we do have students that are placed in residential facilities. So it is my responsibility to ensure that that facility is state approved, following all the guidelines, and that we code that student correctly. Those students stay on our road. We don't withdraw them, and we actually pay that facility per day for that student to be there. I think it's like $61 a day. So when those bills come in, I do reconcile them and make sure they have followed our school calendar. You know, they don't charge us for snow days or holidays, so we make sure we reconcile all that billing. Graduation cohort applications for Franklin County High School in Huntland. That's kind of a year-long process. A graduation cohort is 4 years. So for instance, this year, that began with students enrolling in the 9th grade in 2020. So when that application opens, it is our responsibility to provide documentation for any student that withdrew from our district within that 4-year period. If we don't, or we don't provide the correct documentation, those students become dropouts for us and affect our grad rate. So that's a long process. I'm proud to say I didn't have to do any appeals. We have finished that process this year, and all of our documentation was accepted. That also involves monitoring both rosters, our local and state roster for any errors, and meeting all the deadlines within that process. Last but not least, these are some other things I'm responsible for: federal civil rights data collection, Tennessee Department of Education annual civil rights and bullying compliance report, our Tennessee Department of Education annual alternative education survey. I also provide students, when they got to get their driver's license, they've got to be in compliance. So they have to have a letter, a compulsory attendance letter saying they're in compliance. And on the flip side of that, I have to report to the Department of Safety any students that fall out of compliance. So, do you have any questions?
That's a lot.
I love it. Thank you.
You do a good job. Thank you.
I will echo exactly what Ms. Schultz just said. It is a lot that she is having to monitor, hence while we're trying to divvy out some support for her. As one of the things that she specified was that the non-public schools, that number may seem like it was larger this year than last year. Well, the realization has always been there. Out of the woodworks this year, all these schools, non-public schools, started submitting us the information. I don't know if they were held to the fire from the State Department because they had not been doing that for quite some time. Is that correct?
So I feel like our numbers they look inflated this year, but they're probably more actual.
Right.
It also just seems like a lot that then you're in charge of truancy for the other schools.
That, Dr. Humble was amazed at that's just the way it is. They report their non-compliant students back to us, and it's my responsibility to find them and file the truancy.
It is the wildest thing that though they are not our students on paper, if they are not showing up for their non-public school attendance, then we are responsible for them doing the search.
So where's the woodwork that they came out on?
Ms. Lacey, I'm not sure, and every district has seen this. I just think maybe they were lax on reporting. A lot of times I had to beg and plead to get reports.
So what were they? Schools in little tiny churches or
some of those? I have to honestly, I have to fight pretty hard to get St. Andrews Road every year.
Yeah.
They usually do come through, but a lot of them are small church related, maybe online. The most I hear from as far as truancy are local ones such as Chestnut Ridge, Faith Missionary. The sad thing about that, they don't always report until about a semester of school is over with. So this student may have missed a whole semester of school before I ever take them to court for truancy.
Do they have any kind of state license or?
Oh, yes, ma'am. They have to be Tennessee approved programs before the students can enroll in them, or that student's automatically truant.
Interesting.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. McDonald. This time we have Ms. Crabtree, who will be spotlighting Hotland.
Yay. Yay. All right. Miss Laurie's got me ready over here. I want to say this was Coastland Ringer's last official act as our student representative from Huntland. He graduated this year. You're going to see his face up here in a few minutes several times. He's fantastic. He won the Principals Award this year just because of his leadership and how good he is. Okay, so we'll start off with things with Huntland School, and I'm going to tell you, I'm not one with a whole lot of facts and figures and numbers. I know when I'm watching something or when I'm reading the paper or magazine, I like pictures. So I polled our faculty, and they gave me ideas of what they thought met the heart of the Hornet, what it meant to be at Huntland School. So you're going to see a lot of pictures of folks, and I'll try to tell you what some of those are. Our focus at Huntland this year, we had several things we tried to focus on. One of those was family engagement. You're going to see student engagement. We tried to have a lot of things that our students would enjoy, that they would bring their families to, that would make them have a sense of belonging. You're also going to see some things as we go through here on active learning. Tried to focus a lot this year on hands-on things for the kids to do to make campus exciting, to make school exciting, to make them want to be there. And then another focus that we had that the kids enjoy is educational field trips. Really pushed our teachers this year to plan out educational field trips, not just going for the fun of it, but to go have fun and learn something while they're there. And they have actually adopted a few of these that are going to become, this is the 4th grade field trip, this is the 5th grade field trip, to give them something to look forward to year by year. All right, so on family engagement, you're going to see a lot of things here. Family lunches, grandparent lunches. You'll see our Veterans Day program there in the center. Our pumpkin parade. If you've never been to our pumpkin parade in October, I know Miss Linda's been. It is fantastic. It is absolutely fantastic. If you've never seen that before, and I'm not great with these pointers. I don't know about pointing and all that good stuff. I usually use my finger. But you'll see over here to the left some of the artistic abilities of our students in making pumpkins that can be cartoon characters, movie characters. We had a sow and piglets. They bought the little bitty pumpkins and had the whole family there. We've got Halloween characters, all sorts of things. It's a lot of fun, and it lines both sides of College Street from our school over to Alabama. So if you've never been there for that, that's awesome. Down here in the lower left-hand corner is our Golden Luncheon. The Interact Club puts that on for senior citizens in our community. They come and have a huge Thanksgiving Christmas dinner, depending on the time that we can get that done. We had Trunk or Treat along with our pumpkin parade, so you'll see some in dress-ups. We started our fall festival back. First time we've had a fall festival in several years. The community was very, very excited. So that's something that we're probably going to look to continue. This is College Street over here in the lower right corner, lined with pumpkins up and down the street. We do that at dusk, and all of them lit up, and so when it gets dark, it's a really neat thing to see. So a lot of things that brought families to our campus to see their children and grandchildren and enjoy being there. Our student engagement, a lot of those are hands-on things, and we put together times that we wanted parents on campus, grandparents on campus, affiliated with something the kids could do. For example, some of these you'll see the upper left-hand corner there is a STEM night. We incorporated STEM night with parent-teacher conferences. Parents go talk to teachers, kids go play. These are our littles at some of our pep rallies. If you want to hear the loudest group scream, and Coastland will vouch for me, the K5 side of the gym will outdo the big kids any day of the week, particularly 3-5. Something about their voice is just right to squeal. You'll see our Christmas concert over here with our band director. We had a Christmas concert with the lower grades singing. Easter egg hunts down here. Interact's delivering food all the time. Interact does our teacher week. They'll do packets for homeless. They'll do, there's all kinds of things that they pack things up. This is some of our veterans packages they had for Veterans Day that they gave to people that attended our spring band concert. Of course, pep rallies with our mascot. You'll see Buzz over there. Buzz is our hornet that comes to all of our events. So lots of things that our kids got their hands on stuff. They enjoyed activities, made learning fun. So I think our students participate very well, not counting our art shows and all those sorts of things we do as well. You'll notice the man in the middle there. He came to Huntland Homecoming this year and enjoyed the tricycle race. It was quite humorous. We couldn't go without putting that right in the middle. It had to go right in the middle. Prime time. Homecoming is an event in and of itself. It is 2 days packed full. I took what we used to do in a week and compacted it into 2 days, and it is 2 days of non-stop fun, and they really enjoy it. Our floats, I put our floats against anybody's floats any day of the week, any year of the year, any of the decades. It does not matter. Our floats are awesome. He'll vouch for that. Kids enjoying outside activities, class competitions. The middle schools do signs for the fencing around the football field. We play kickball. We play flag football. We do lots of different things for activities and fun to get kids involved. Every single age group from kindergarten up has something to do homecoming week. Our kindergartners have play hornet tag to music in front of the entire student body out on the football field. It is entertaining as it can be to watch kindergartners run around with pool noodles trying to tag the next person. They love it. So all grades are involved in these activities. It is a whole school homecoming. Dress-up days. We have them for different things. Anything to motivate. Some of this is homecoming. Some of it is Dr. Seuss Week. Some of it is Grinchmas. If you've never seen Grinchmas at Christmas, that's always interesting. Just all sorts of things that get the kids to feel a little special, to enjoy things with their friends. I usually have a twin somewhere. You'll see high school kids all the way down to our pre-Kers that enjoy the dress-ups. And one thing about Huntland, Miss Sandy will vouch for this one. When you dress up from kindergarten to 12. If it is Dr. Seuss Week, those high schoolers are ready to be in Dr. Seuss attire. It's top to bottom. Everybody enjoys. Our middle school clubs, Beta Club, Interact, FCA, we've got all these sorts of clubs for them to be involved. So you'll see some activities here. They hide eggs for our Easter egg hunt. There's our golden luncheon. They're serving drinks. Here is one of our 4-H Clover Bowl teams. I believe that is our 7th grade. By the way, I'm going to throw this in. Our 5th graders won the county for the very first time ever, went to Cookeville, lost in the first round, got put in the loser's bracket, and came all the way through the loser's bracket to win the regional championship at Cookeville. They are so excited. Yay! That is a first. That thrills them. I got a plant. This is awesome too. Interact brought me a plant. That's one of their things. I couldn't even tell you what day it was. It's one of the days that we celebrate. But that one was, I must have been a blooming flower that day. I don't know what it was. But anyway, they brought me one. You see the luncheon there, pizza for parent-teacher conferences. Our clubs sponsor the food for our conferences. Here again, I believe, is one of our art or STEM nights with the kids outdoors on the table enjoying. So lots of things going on in our middle school to help them feel involved. Here are high school clubs. We've got our Interact here. Our FFA is in the middle. We've got business. I see Miss Campbell is back here. Those are her business students. And then our TSA students that competed this year for the first time also. I will say Interact, I could not tell you everything that Interact does. And I have a slide here in just a minute with some of their activities. FFA, we had, I believe, 11, I think I wrote that down somewhere, maybe 11 state 4-year degrees this year. So our FFA club is extremely active. These kids get a lot of time in that. 9 4-year degrees. Our business FBLA club, there you'll see 6 students up there that competed at the state level. Every single one of them won first or second place in their category. We have one that is going to the Nationals in California here shortly. But we have 3 first place finishes and 3 second place finishes there. TSA, first time they've competed in some new categories through STEM and did extremely well. I think you'll recognize the face there to the far left. Again, one of our leadership students there. That's Coastland and lots of friends. So our high school clubs are very active. There are several other clubs not pictured here. These are probably our 3 biggest and most involved. Okay, these are activities that the clubs help around campus. And there are a lot of things that happen on our campus that could not be done if our high school students did not belong to service clubs. And everything up here you see is a service. One in particular that I love is this one. We had teachers to dress up in the balloon costumes and compete in a dance contest against the students. Hilarious. One of the most, am I right? One of the funniest things that, I mean, it's great. Little kids over here decorating plates. They do different things. That can be animals. It could be making different animal slides. It could be flowers. They're all the time doing something for parents or others. And you'll just see lots of hands-on things that represent what goes on at Huntland School. Hands-on learning, more pictures of our kids. This is a lot of our STEM stuff, our 3-5 billion. The teachers themselves, I did not ask them to do this. The teachers came to me and asked if they could have a STEM in the hallways day. Planned it themselves, executed it themselves, and you'll see a lot of those types of activities. Our careers classes did a lot with airplanes and aerodynamics and robotics, beginnings of those things. You'll see some kids outside beginning to learn some of that, which is another STEM type activity. So lots of things going on hands-on at Huntland. Okay. Elementary field trips, all educational. We had, of course, the pumpkin patch with the little ones. We did Montlow plays with the littles up through, I think, the 3rd grade, K through 3. Went to some plays at Montlow. 4th grade studied motion this year, potential, kinetic, and so they ended the year with a field trip to the bowling alley. And they had to be able to explain to me what was going on at the bowling alley and how that demonstrated motion and energy and those sorts of things. And they did. They made a little video, sent it back to me for me to see that they had applied their learning at the bowling alley. We had trips to Timms Ford State Park. They took walks and tours with our state park rangers. Learned a lot, enjoyed, started that. Some of that started with owl pellets that came to our campus, so they learned about what animals eat and things. So you see a lot of things outside, a lot of things with animals, a lot of hands-on, a lot of activity. They handled snakes, which I was not a fan of, but they did, and they loved it, squeals and all. So those are some of our elementary field trips that we're taking this year. Middle school field trips. One of the things that we really enjoyed, our whole middle school went to Scottsboro. Lake Guntersville had the Christopher Columbus boats. I think it was the Nina and the Pinta replicas. And our middle school loaded up and went to Scottsboro and toured the ships and had a blast. Picnic lunch at the park on the way back. They had a great time. In the middle, you'll see our 6th grade at Biztown in Nashville. And you'll see one of our very own, one of the Conrad twins, I believe that's Haley, was voted mayor of Biztown while they were in Nashville for that, and she is pictured with Nashville's mayor right there in the middle of the picture. And you'll see our park rangers. The middle school took a trip to South Cumberland State Park up in Monteagle. Guided tours, flowers, trees, animals. Had a great time and enjoyed their day as well. So that's some of the things that the middle school has done. This is Huntland. This is one of the things that our teachers suggested that's different about Huntland. You will see our seniors on their senior walk with kindergarten and pre-K kids. So if you want to see what it looks like when they start and when they finish, there it is. And it chokes me up every time I see them. Every time. There is our Clover Bowl team in orange down there, 5th grade Clover Bowl team that won. The assembly picture you see at the top is something that a lot of schools don't do anymore, and that is an annual dedication ceremony. Every year Huntland dedicates the annual to a faculty or family member. We are one of the only schools that still do that. It is an assembly of the entire school. They dedicate, they go through a slideshow, and every kid in the school is on a slide somewhere for that show. This year the annual was dedicated to Coach McLennan. He had no clue. He was actually standing out in the lobby when this was taking place, trying to stay in the back like Coach McLennan does. His family snuck in on the other end. He had no idea that they were coming in. And he was presented with the first annual. It has a whole section dedicated to him. So that is something special from Huntland. Senior interviews. I just had to throw this out. You'll see again Mr. Ringer right there in the middle winning money. The Chamber of Commerce had a great time at Huntland this day. bragged tremendously. And I believe two of the things that they bragged on, here's our group over here on the far right. One was their confidence, two was their preparedness. And they went on and on about how well. And I wanted to show you our kids, our adults walking out the door got each other ready. You don't see me doing that. You see one young man getting another young man ready to go. They work together, and that's a big thing. This is all from our senior interview process. And then, of course, some other things that we did that have helped Huntland. Facilities improvements. If you have not seen it, I wanted you to see the new gym floor that was done back in November. That is maple hardwood. Also, we have added several other things, added the safety features with some of our cameras and some of the fencing and the screening. Also, the heating facility for baseball and softball is new. There's just a lot of things that if you look, window tinting, we've done a lot of things with that. And attendance incentives. I'm going to tell you, some of these kids get excited. I bought popsicles like you wouldn't believe. I let the kids vote on what they wanted. The older kids wanted homework passes. I have no idea why they would not want to do homework. But anyway, the older kids took homework passes. Most of the time, the little kids loved the popsicles. And it was a treat to get to take those to them. We had competition at the end of the month. Whichever class had the fewest absences got a party on me. And they surely enjoyed that. So just a few of the highlights. I know I talked longer than you probably were ready for, but I'm kind of proud of what we're doing. So this is Huntland. Thank you all. Any questions?
Ms. Crabtree, how is the soccer field going?
The soccer field, I'm glad you mentioned that. If we could get a few dry days in a row, we would be great. We have a fence that is protecting the roads now that is up to help keep children from running out in the street while playing games. We were able to move some dirt. I want to say it was last Thursday. We were able to move some dirt. We've had dirt donated, waiting to be put on the field. Got some of it put in. We're looking to get the rest put in hopefully mid next week if we can dry out a few days. Then we have a cultipacker that will run over it to kind of help even out some of the ruts or the holes that we might have. There's not a lot of big holes, but there's a lot of roughness to it, having been a field. So that's the next thing, and then fertilize, and we should be ready to go. Bleachers have been ordered and have arrived, just not put together. Player benches are put together and on campus. We have a scoreboard ordered that will be ready to go up. So the pieces are there. It's just a matter of getting the weather to cooperate with us just a little bit to get the equipment on it.
Is the goal to have it ready for the...
The goal is to have it ready by August. Yes, sir. That was my goal last fall, and I'm not letting that go again come, you know what.
Yeah.
Less water. Hell or high water. No water. I don't need any water. Okay? Anybody? Thank you all so much. We appreciate you. Thank you.
I appreciate you, Ms. Crabtree, and the work that you're doing there at Huntland. For updates, project updates, Ms. Clark has sent those. Several things going on, getting some new units installed at Clark, as well as those schools that requested furniture. We were able to order that and get that to those schools. Maintenance has put those together. Fresh new coat of paint here in the boardroom. It's been completely repainted, as well as parking lot being done at Deckard for the restriping. And then on to employment, Dr. Alston.
Okay, as promised, very busy month in the HR office. Just a lot of activity on the one page at the bottom. I've added some information for you just to give you a little bit of a summary for the month of May. The different actions going on, about 68 different things just for the month of May. We've hired and transferred and done a lot of those employment things, but that's just the beginning of what we do in our office. We have to onboard all of these employees, and that takes a lot of time. And people are continuing to decide on retiring or decide on moving on to something else. So we continue to have openings, and we probably will until the start of school. But I'm pretty pleased that we don't have a whole lot of teacher openings at this time, and I feel very confident that we'll be able to fill those. So that's my report for the month.
That's all.
All right, that moves us to item I, the legislative update. Ms. Martin.
Okay. wanted to make sure we pointed out to Carrie that you're welcome to stay for our board meeting, but if you also want to go home now that you've had your moment, our feelings won't be hurt. Okay, legislative. So I've shared most of the meaty stuff in previous months, but just a couple additional things to share. One of the bills that became law is related to like cell phone, wireless communication stuff. We already had a policy, so I don't know that it's going to impact us. We may just have been ahead of the curve with that one. That remains to be seen. A bill that we touched on that didn't become law but will likely come back was HB 0662, Senate Bill 714. And this was the one that was really targeted at the Memphis Shelby County schools. In short, like the state and the legislature hasn't been happy. They tried the Achievement charter school district there, and they poured a lot of money into it, $1 billion, and it didn't do better than the regular public schools. So they're trying to say, oh, you can have basically a kind of state takeover. That didn't end up passing, but they did put in money. They're going to do a forensic audit. It'll cost $6 million before the next legislative session. So it's just sort of something to watch and see how this might come back. Because apparently the Senate and the House versions of this didn't quite come together. Let's see, so for the TSBA conference in November, boards can put forth resolutions that all school boards across the state can vote on. So if we want to put forth any resolutions, we can. We passed a couple resolutions as a board, and so we may want to consider putting like those forward. The one about pre-K, like Germantown and Lakeland will have one, but having more doesn't hurt. We have the one that we passed about the other bill that might look a little different in the future. So I could have something about those ready for next month if we feel like we want to pass those. But if there are other issues that anyone on the board can think of that we would like to put forward.
Isn't there an upcoming deadline on that?
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't remember offhand when it is. It might be like August.
Sooner rather than later.
But I think that if we could sort of have it sorted out by July or possibly August, we should be okay. It might even be September. I'll double check the dates, but I figure talking about it now gives us time to plan. So also sit on this. If you think of something by next month, feel free to bring it up. A little bit of national news. A recent thing said that Trump's budget calls for a 15% funding cut. Now, supposedly it's not going to impact Title I, but for kids going off to college or those with kids in college, the administration was looking to cut the maximum amount of the annual Pell Grant from roughly $7,400 to $5,700. That amount can make a big difference for people. So just something else to watch, take a look at. And then I found a couple of articles that I thought were interesting because we're all in the business of education, and some kids do better, some kids do worse. Sometimes scores are better, sometimes scores are worse. And so part of this has some data and some articles about how boys are falling behind, at least across the board. I'm not saying it's in our district, but people might, and again, these are links, so if people want to read up on these, they can. It said, generally speaking, boys are in kindergarten behind girls in both academic readiness and their behavior. The gender gaps persist as they move through school. Across the United States, girls score better on reading tests than boys. Girls earn higher GPAs, and boys are more likely to be suspended. And then this other article then said, as the expectations for kindergarten have risen, the changes have put boys who tend to mature later at a disadvantage. And I thought that, again, TCAP and all this kind of testing, and they're supposed to be reading in kindergarten, and so I just thought all of this was interesting as we're sort of pushing them to academically mature faster whether they're really ready for it or not. So, anyhow, if you have a moment later and feel like doing a little reading, if you're out there in the world, it's up there. You can link to it from online. So feel free to take a read and find out more. As always, be in touch with our state or national legislators if you have thoughts on these or any other issues. Anyone else have anything to add? Okay, thank you.
All right, that takes us to finance. Number one is the receive and file of the May 2025 intercategory amendment and 2025 May monthly report. So let's just receive and file on those two.
Make a motion to receive and file the May 2025 intercategory amendment and monthly report.
Second.
We have a motion by Ms. Roberts, a second by Ms. Schultz. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. That takes us to item number 2. This is the June 2025 budget amendment and the resolution for the cooperative purchasing with Equalis. Jenny, you got any?
The budget amendment is all grant related. But the resolution for the cooperative purchasing, we're members of a lot of co-ops already. This is just a formality. It's for the cafeteria to be able to buy some of their commodities through a co-op.
Okay. Anybody have any questions on those?
So is it for food purchasing?
It is, yes,
Okay.
But does this give us like better prices or access to more produce or?
Yeah, so basically what it does is it just takes not only our district's numbers, but it takes Lincoln County, it takes, hers is probably the whole state, sometimes nationally, where we can pool our number of items that we're gonna buy, which pulls down those prices.
Good job. Thank you.
And does this cost money or it's just the word have to sign an agreement?
Yeah, it's just a formality. We take advantage of a whole lot of cooperative purchasings because a lot of ours come out of Texas and California because obviously their school districts can get much better pricing than we can. So,
Do we need to list these separately or can we do them all together?
You do them all together.
Okay, I make a motion to approve the June 2025 GP budget amendment, the resolution for cooperative purchasing with Equalis, and Equalis Group Master Purchasing Agreement.
So we have a motion and we have a second by Ms. Leakey. Motion by Ms. Roberts. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion's carried. So that brings us to our new business, the 25-26 school fees for FCHS and Holland. This is something we look at every year. I don't think these have changed much from last year.
I just have one question. So the marching band at the high school, one of the expenses they listed was the practice field. Like, is that something that the band has to?
Where do you see this?
Oh, I don't know. Let me see if I can find the right page. I looked it up.
Is it on the handwritten?
Yeah, it's on the handwritten. Oh, it just says robot to paint practice field. I missed the dot. Okay.
Yes,
So there's a robot.
that is something that we purchased or leased several years ago.
Leasing.
Yeah, leased it and
So maybe
it is,
they're continuing.
yes, it is quite expensive, but it does do a good job, but it is.
Are we leasing that as a district still, or is this something that the
I believe we have 2.
We leased the one, and I know it was leased as a district.
the school sport organizations leased the second one.
Yeah,
Okay.
so
How long is that agreement?
If I can recall, when I first took over, you all were just approving it at that point, I do believe, and I think it was a
I knew there was a
5-year, and it's a lease.
Yeah, I knew it was pretty lengthy agreement.
And
it's pretty expensive.
You have to buy paint for it every time you use it. I think the paint's very expensive too.
Yeah, yeah. Nothing's cheap anymore. Nothing's cheap. But it was taking several 2 or 3, 4 people, hours upon hours to do this, so. yeah. So we'll need a motion for those. There's no other questions.
Motion to approve the fees for the FCHS and HUMP.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Cole, second by Ms. Roberts. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 2 on our new business is the school supply list for 25-26.
Is there a minimum on what they can ask parents to bring in, and what is that?
Well, I'm glad that you all asked that, and I would hope as a board that you all would really look at the list. I have encouraged the principals to have their teachers, when they're thinking about a supply list, that it should not exceed $12. And the reason I come up with that is because there are families that have 3 and 4 children in it, and it's not appropriate to be asking parents to spend substantial amount of monies for supplies in bulk. So there should be no wish list on a student supply list, because you don't want parents to ever feel like they have to go get extra items. So we're working hard for that, but if you see things on the list that you feel is, to look at it from a quantitative standpoint, really keeping it minimal, because if not, I think you will have teachers that will try to add to the list constantly and get those costs back up there, and I just feel it's unfair.
Do we still have churches and United Way that make donations?
There are, absolutely. And oftentimes, and we all know this, those of us that have been in education, many times at the end of the year, you have classrooms that are sitting with all these extra supplies that we've had these parents bring throughout the course of the year.
What about the Clorox wipes? Is that even acceptable to ask parents to bring in?
It's more of a wish list. It's not a supply that the kid has to have.
Some of them are quite more lengthy than
Yes,
others.
ma'am.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
And there's Clorox wipes on the back.
Well, you can ask for the money.
Oh, yeah, I'm looking at one here that's got,
Yes, that's right.
I guess, Ziploc bags. A lot of Clorox wipes. Yeah. A lot. I understand as a past teacher that you need these supplies, you want these supplies, and I was in kindergarten, so you can imagine how many glue sticks we went through after half the kids ate theirs. You get donations for those kinds of things, and that was years ago. I would hope you would still get those kind of donations from churches, and like Dr. Holman said, sometimes you ended up with a supply box left over. So I don't know.
And sometimes those donations include things that you don't really need also.
I think this is probably a process that could be fine-tuned a little bit with specific partners for schools or a grade level in a school, something like that. I do think your suggestion is a good one. I'm going to play the devil's advocate. I guess I'm good at that. But one of my joys as a parent was to go school shopping for supplies with my children. It gave me a chance to express to them how important the school was and choosing the right crayon or the pencils or whatever. So I think we need to really look at that and look at what parents can do and how to make this, even if they're shopping for supplies in like a gymnasium where they've already been put there. I think it's important for parents and children to do that together whenever possible.
For me, the revelation came probably 5 or 6 years ago when I was in a store. You don't know who you are, and it was during the back-to-school season. And to hear the number of parents complain about what they were having to buy their child was very disheartening. And so I immediately went back to our school as principal then, and we literally sat down as a team and decided what was the must, not the likes, the must. And we literally took a picture of it and put it on our webpage. This is all that you're required that we're asking you to bring. Because it was disheartening to me, and I stand strong to it, because you have many teachers who are far removed from not realizing their families. I mean, things are expensive.
Most families, there's more than one child in a family.
Absolutely.
I mean, I think that there are, I mean, this kind of goes for the previous thing we just approved too, but I mean, I think, like, what if we ordered, you know, if we said all kindergartners through fifth graders are supposed to have 2 packs of crayons? I mean, we talked about the cooperative purchasing. So what if we buy the, I don't know, you know, 2,000 packs of crayons or 4,000 packs of crayons at whatever, hopefully discounted district price we could get, and then we set up school shopping, and you know, maybe there's an elementary school fee of like $5. I mean, I don't know, or it's waived depending on how you do it. I mean, what if we did something like that?
Well, I think it goes back to something that Ms. Lee said, that there's still something about a parent being able to take their child to the store and have that moment to buy the items. I do believe and support that 100%. It's just hearing those conversations of, whoa, why do I have to have 25 dry erase markers? Why do I have to have, and you don't. So I was just asking you all.
Do they still fill the school bus?
Yes, ma'am. I mean, there's several.
We used to fill backpacks.
Yes.
And then the children, and we let parents know if you
Right.
need a backpack. And we took the materials from fill the school bus and build the
That's
backpacks
exactly
for the
right.
children. And so even if they couldn't,
That's right.
the parent could come and pick that up before school started, and then they could go through it and label everything
Yeah.
with their child.
And there's a very discreet way that is being done
Mhm.
to those families that may not be able to go get those supplies, working with the school counselor and the principal. There are ways that they can meet with those parents and have those supplies ready for
And they
those
could
children.
come in with them the first day. of
Yes,
school.
ma'am.
We did that for years.
Well, I mean, and I guess then, is there a concern about some of the costs adding up for the high school fees? Because, I mean, some are 5, some are 10, some are 25, one's 125. I mean, do we have similar concerns about the way some of that adds up?
Do our students that are receiving free and reduced lunch, are they waived or exempt from those fees?
Fee waivers.
Yes.
Okay. I thought so.
Well, I think, while we certainly have those students who can't afford to buy a lot of things, you know, there's always been some buy-in, for lack of a better word, with parents. And that goes back, you know, close to a century of schools. I was talking with my mom the other day, and we drove past an area, and she said, "Oh, there's where George used to live. I bought my books from him." And I said, "What?" And she said, "Yeah, she said, when I was in school, you had to buy your own books." And she said, "He was ahead of me in school, and he took good care of his books, so I always bought mine from him." So, you know, to think that we've never had to buy, you know, books is just not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thankfully, we don't have to buy books.
Exactly.
Kids don't have to buy the
Well,
books.
we certainly have to take out a loan for those now.
Well,
But,
I think your point, Dr. Holmes, is well made, that we don't need to add burdens to families, multiple children, things on a list that seem frivolous or could be accessed another way. I just think too that we don't need to take away the excitement of the families coming together to prepare. I mean, you all know there's nothing more exciting than going and looking at a box of crayons that has 48 in it.
I have experienced what Dr. Holmes was talking about, being in Walmart
Yeah.
at the
And
beginning.
fit throwing.
And you have the set of parents where they're buying 14 of everything. You have another set of parents right next to you that, you know, well, you're not gonna get this because Johnny needs it in 4th grade. You know, you'll wait.
So
till
is
you
it
get
a
to 4th
can't
grade.
or more? And that's,
Yeah.
you know, and that's what I think we have to be sensitive to. They can't buy it or they don't want to, or they don't feel like they need to, and I think that's what you heard, Dr. Holmes. They don't feel like they should have to.
I guess kind of the consensus of what we're saying is please get with the principals and make sure, you know, maybe too late for this year, but in the future, you know, that it is a need, not a want. All right, well, we need a motion on that one.
Do we approve this list?
Yes, ma'am.
What
So
we-
essentially, the school supply list is considered a fundraiser in the eyes of the state. It is not something that has been approved before, but going forward it needs to be, because it is considered a fundraiser, because we're asking other people for things.
What about teachers that ask for stuff online?
They have to fill out a fundraiser.
Yeah, and we've shared with the principals to remind their teachers, this business of getting on social media, asking for these wish lists is just inappropriate.
Thank you for that.
I think that's different when I see it.
It's been, yes, it has been conveyed.
Good.
Well, Walmart, I mean, Amazon loves it.
Imagine that. So.
It's been conveyed, but that doesn't mean it's like a directive. It is
Yeah,
still.
we've had principals tell them to take it down,
Okay.
but it's their personal accounts. So you run into that issue. I just think it's, I'll leave my thoughts to you.
You know, an evil thought contained is still sin. You might as well spit it out.
I think it's just inappropriate to constantly be asking parents for all these extra things and just putting that burden. I just have an issue with it. Thank you.
Went straight on Jimmy Carter.
It'll be down there.
Said Jimmy Carter. I mean, what, Jimmy Carter said that?
Well,
I just made it up. That's what I tell people all the time.
Motion to approve the school supply list for the 25-26 school year.
Second.
Got a motion by Mr. Cole, second by Mrs. Schultz. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
That maybe next year, like someone said, we can look over this a little better before it goes out to the public.
Okay.
And before we're asked to approve it, because I could X some things immediately.
Yeah, some of them are just quite long and some of them are very reasonable.
Was there any opposed?
Yes, me.
Okay, Ms. Linda's opposed. Well, the ayes have it, so motion passes.
May I say something, please?
Absolutely.
If being that you have these lists, and I don't mind getting hard copies for it, so we can next year go ahead and start looking early. A lot of times they try to use the same ones. If you want to mark off things that are concerned, and then I can then have that back, and we can compile and know how to move forward. That would be great for the following school year.
That's quite a deal.
So that brings us to discussion. Number one is discussion of the Director of Schools evaluation for board members. So this is our annual evaluation. We've received this on hard copy and electronic as well. We have a sample evaluation. Anybody have any?
So I asked for this one to be put on the agenda. Is anybody else doing Camp TSBA?
I am.
Okay, so last week's Camp TSBA session was on superintendent contracts and evaluations. And we've talked before about maybe revamping the evaluation, but we haven't done anything about it yet. And so I am going to suggest that we, for this year, and I don't know if we can vote today or if we have to wait to vote next meeting, I'm going to suggest that we keep the evaluation that we've used, so we're comparing apples to apples, but we also try out the new version. So TSBA has done a bunch of work and has gotten feedback on their evaluation tool that they've used. And in part, they have a rubric for each of the categories to help in scoring, which seems helpful. And they said that they kind of base these more on teacher evaluations, so it should be more of a familiar setup, and it gives some more insight and feedback. Because one of the issues with or something that could be seen as an issue is, we've got 0 to 4, and sometimes people have comments, sometimes don't, but it covers a lot of, like the version we use covers a lot of different things, but what's really being scored in the one general number for the category. And so here, they have, so if you want to look at A, it says board relationships. It breaks it down into 4 things. So seeks and accepts constructive criticism and work from the board. And so you know what you're scoring. Or if you look at E, district management and operations, ensures operational plans and procedures to achieve the mission, vision, and goals are in place. And so, there's a section on facilities, and so it's a chance, I think, for us to look at things in a more granular way, but also, I think in an ideal world, we would kind of make, like, if we discuss this and decide that this seems like a good thing going forward, then Dr. Holman maybe at our next meeting would be like, oh yeah, let me talk some more about these things, because of course you want to score things that you know about. And then if we like this one going forward, maybe we could switch to the more comprehensive one. And they said, of course, that you're welcome to make it your own. You can add things and take things away. But I thought we might just use this as a trial run and see what we like or don't like, and then we can adjust it for the future.
Sarah, let me see if I understand what you're suggesting. First of all, when is Dr. Holman's evaluation coming up? Does anybody know that?
Well, his contract was effective July 1, so it would be.
I think we usually do
Yeah,
our
so
evaluations in August.
typically, at a minimum, it would be July, so it could be as late as August.
I thought that we usually had them turned in August.
Miss
If I remember
Miss
correctly.
Patty?
When do we use
I
that?
think the annual agenda says July, but I think we've been doing it in August.
Yeah,
like
August.
So are you suggesting that we do both this year?
For this year, I am, because last year we used the one that we used. And so, just in terms of like apples to apples, I thought we could do that one this year, but kind of also dip our toes in the water with the new one and see how we feel about it, since it's kind of an untested evaluation for us. This is their sample, so it says, it should take place in July.
And this one is straight from TSBA?
Yeah, this is the thing that they included in their thing if you signed up for it.
No cost to use it?
Nope. It's part of it.
How are we supposed to get like student achievement data and?
Well, and again, this is like
somebody else is gonna have to provide that for us, the student growth and ready graduate data and all of that.
But I think that part of what could be useful about this is that, it can help prompt us to be like, oh, yes, we would like this, or it's a great time to talk about finances, which is like in section B. Let's hear from Jenny and Dr. Holman, or human resources. Let's hear these things from Dr. Alsop. And so I think that part of what we've also talked about, there's like the 5-year plan and then the 1-year thing. And sometimes we're not always good at asking for some of that data and some of that information. And so I think part of what could be good about trying this is it would help prompt us to get that and have some of those conversations that we want to be having anyhow.
One thing I kind of like is where it says exceeds level 3 rubric, but it does not meet level 5. That kind of gives you a little more leeway into how you might want to evaluate these.
The other thing we could do with data this year is ask for last year's and this year's. There may not be a cell for that on that particular form, but I think we could still ask for that. And I think it would help to get it all in one place.
I would appreciate having all that data, and we look forward to having that data, but I'm not sure my conscience would allow me to make, I'm not going to say this right, but to evaluate, judge our director's performance based on what's happening in every individual school. I know, we're the top, okay? It stops here. Then he's next. But to give all of, for his evaluation to come from the data from each individual school, the students.
I see what you're saying.
Fair is not a fair word, but I just don't think that's.
We're not evaluating him on his merits.
Right,
necessarily
you're
on-
evaluating how a third grade student did on a test.
Yes.
Not how
But
he
it's
did.
his evaluation.
It's his evaluation, I understand that.
So how do you
How do
say
you correlate
yes and
the
no,
two?
you know?
I mean, this is part of why I'm recommending that we try this. Like, and I'd love to hear what you think too, Dr. Holm, but like, we could try it. And then if we're like, yeah, I don't feel good about this, or I don't like this, we don't have to keep it. I mean, I think the thing about test scores, and we know we've been discussing test scores in meetings and stuff, like, while it comes, I mean, there's a whole district responsibility for those, and that is, as we know, something that certain commissioners have focused on intently in meetings,
Maybe we should all look at it and see what we could pull out that we can use and.
So is that what we want to do, is take a look at this sample and mark it up how you would?
Have we completely decided we want to change our evaluation? I mean.
No,
this is why I'm saying, like, my recommendation is that we use, like, for this year, we use the one that we've been using and that we've used for years. And then that way, like, you know, we can look at last year's evaluation and look at this year's evaluation and have the apples to apples comparison. But we also give this a trial run.
Because we want to change our evaluation. Is that why we're giving this a trial run?
I think our evaluation that we're currently using is I don't think it's in depth enough sometimes. And I was on the board and Lance was on the board when we adopted that one many years ago, and we kind of put away something that had us more focused. And I think it's okay to try to see if we think it's not giving us the information we want or the feedback that Dr. Holman might need, then we don't have to use it. We could keep what we have, but the one that we're using now, we threw out something that was more comprehensive. And I think what Sarah is saying, maybe in this new world that we're operating in, something more comprehensive would be beneficial to all of us involved, board, Dr. Holman, and others. Try it and see. If you don't like it, or there are parts of it, I think it could be pieced out too.
Well, and that's part of what I'm saying. Like, we might find, oh yeah, I don't think this part's useful, or this part we maybe don't feel like we can judge, or we need more information. So either we would know for next year we should ask for this information ahead of time, or we want to take this out, or we want to sub this other thing in. Like the community relations one, like this, you know, utilizes community resources and establish partnerships to support the board's vision and mission. Like, you know, you were working on, like, you were going to Nissan and trying to go to some places to talk to people about what was happening in the schools. Like, I can see how having something that's more specific gives a chance to acknowledge some of the things that are happening in different ways that the more generalized one number for a whole category doesn't.
The other thing I would say is that I don't think we have to second guess that. I think if I have a question about a part of it that I may not have the exact answer, I'm perfectly comfortable contacting Dr. Holman and asking him what he's done in this particular category.
Absolutely.
And part of what it says here on the, like that, if you look at the sample directory, that second page that says page 1, like the last thing says, a copy of the written evaluation shall be delivered to the director of schools. They say 2 weeks prior to the July board meeting. I mean, if we say August, whether it would be 2 weeks or whether we want to bump it to 1 week, because what it says is the director of schools should have the right to make a written or oral response to the evaluation. So if we, instead of, you know, I usually on the late end of things, but instead of, if we get it in early, then he could get the feedback. And so if he's like, oh yeah, so, you know, I got this score about 5, this is something I'm really proud of, thanks for noticing, here's what I've done. Or, oh, the score wasn't what I expected, but here's why it should be higher, I've done these things. Like, it would give a chance for some conversation, which I think could be useful. Because I think that part of it is like I mean, you do a lot of things and a lot of things happen that we don't always know about. Because you're running a school district with lots of employees and lots of kids. And so I could see it as a way to spark some additional conversations as well.
So Lance, is this something we need to vote on or just agree to take home and do?
Well, I mean, at this point, it would, I think what Ms. Marheski is asking us to do is just kind of voluntarily look at this second evaluation and fill it out and see how it.
But is that saying that we will be changing our evaluation
No,
over the next year?
no.
How does it not say that?
We would all have to agree through a vote to change
We
our
agree
current
to a
evaluation.
vote to use the one we've been using.
Right, she's,
So, I mean,
I don't want to parrot, but I think she's asking us to do this one as an exercise to see if we like it, to see if there's parts of it we like, or if we don't like it.
Because again, if we're using this as our real evaluation, this is like let's see what we think.
And I think the one that we're currently using is we've been using 7 or 8 years. And we did, as a board, vote to adopt that. So I think it's okay at the end of 7 or 8 years to.
Oh, well, we were missing a category from the evaluation, so they had to update it because we were missing one of the categories. That's when it was updated, I think.
All right.
So do we need to vote to try it, or do we just say we're going to try it and do this one also?
I was under the impression this second one was voluntary.
Yeah, I don't think we have to vote on it.
We don't have to vote on that.
You don't want to do it, don't do it.
I guess it just seems like it'd be more useful if everybody tried it, because then we know what we thought.
Well, I'm opposed to voting on it. It's under discussion. I think we discussed it.
So would it be, if we generally don't do it until the August meeting, could we vote on it next month? I don't mean on having this take the place of the other one, just on doing it, because it seems like if we want to consider it, it's more helpful if
it still reads to me, and I'm sorry, but it still reads to me that a decision has been made. We are going to change our evaluation of our director by having us to choose which one we like by doing both. I can't get that out of my brain.
Well, I don't think that's what's on the table, Linda. I think what's on the table is to accept and use the one that we've been using for the last 7 or 8 years, which is very modified and very.
I think when I first
and then to take the new one, the one that TSBA has developed and has published, and all of us try it and see if there are some categories or some information in that we might want to embed in the one that we're currently using, or that we might want to take the one that TSBA has done but eliminate parts of it that we don't think are applicable to us. I don't think it's a done deal. I don't interpret it that way.
Ms. Patty, when do you need our annual evaluation of the director?
Well, if we want to put it on the August board meeting like we've been doing, I needed at least a week in advance to be able to compile everything.
So you tell us when it would be easier for you to have it.
Middle
Do we
of
want to
July,
put it-
basically.
Okay. So do we want it on the August board meeting? If so, she needs it the middle of July, right?
Well, we've got, I would say August is the latest we could push it.
Yeah. Might have to do it in August or September.
It's supposed to be,
Right before
supposed to be done in July.
Okay.
I think if we had it on I think it's been completed August,
It was in August last year.
It was on August, okay, you meant the middle of July.
And I can send them both out electronically. So y'all can, fill out what you've got, or you can fill out what I send out in an email.
Just keep in mind, nothing we do is anonymous. I mean, everything we do is, we have open records laws, so if someone requests to see it, it's certainly public information.
And again, Dr. Holman, if anyone on the board were to have a question about a particular category, you welcome a
Anytime.
conversation about that.
Anytime.
All right, that takes us through their schedule of meetings. June 10th, we've got a county commission budget workshop at 6 o'clock in the annex building. June 16th, county commission meeting, 6 p.m. Then July 14th, our regular board meeting. So,
And the meeting tomorrow night is, they're gonna go over everything that's in the budget, but not vote, and then vote on the 16th, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. We just, it's already passed, the full budget has already passed the finance committee twice. So we just hold a workshop and basically go over everything that's in the budget so that anybody that has any questions can ask questions, get a better understanding on the resolutions and everything.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
we are adjourned.